Okay,
Thank
so
you.
Trent and Shauna and I are going to read today. Shauna will read the verse first and Trent will read the verse second. So we're reading chapter 15, the seventh day of the seventh millennium. Let us walk through each of the holy days in the book of Leviticus and learn something new about the times and seasons.
And Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, The feasts of Jehovah, which you shall proclaim, holy convocations, even these are my appointed feasts. Leviticus 23:1.
The Sabbath.
6 days you shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest, a holy convocation. You shall not do any work. It is a Sabbath to Jehovah in all of your dwellings. Leviticus 23:3.
The very first Moedim, or holy day, mentioned in Leviticus 23 is the weekly Sabbath, or the fourth commandment. The Sabbath and all the holy days are from sunset to sunset. The weekly Sabbath is from the sunset Friday to sunset Saturday. We are not to work on this day, nor are we to have any others perform any kind of work for us. Not your wife, your husband, your children, nor any stranger or animal. And 2, we are not to seek our own pleasure. The weekly Sabbath is an act of sevening ourselves each week. It is pledging allegiance to Jehovah by keeping it holy and learning more about him in study, communicating in prayer, and in resting and spending quality time with your family. It is the best of all possible days for family time, in fact. The Hebrew word for 7 is Sheva, which comes from the Hebrew word Shabbat, to seven oneself by swearing an oath or by repeating a declaration 7 times. It is why the bride circles her husband 7 times on the wedding day. It is why Israel marched and shouted around Jericho 7 times, and why Abraham set aside 7 ewe lambs when making the oath with Abimelech. We seven ourselves in the same way when we keep the 7th day, the Shabbat. We seven ourselves when we keep each of the 7 feasts of Leviticus 23. We seven ourselves when we keep the holy days of the 7th month. We seven ourselves when we keep the 7th year land rest. We seven ourselves when we keep the 7 Shabbats leading up to the 50th day of the Pentecost. We seven ourselves when we keep the sabbatical years leading up to the 50th year called the Jubilee year. The weekly Shabbat foreshadows the 7th millennium of rest, which we are told of in the book of Hebrews.
And to whom did he swear that they should not enter into his rest, but to those who did not believe? So we see that they could not enter in because of unbelief. Hebrews 3:18 through 19.
Therefore, wait, I'm reading, right? Okay. And to whom did
No, this one.
Therefore, a promise being left to enter into his rest, let us fear lest any of you should seem to come short of it. For also we have had the gospel preached, as well as them. But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in those who heard it. For we who have believed to enter into the rest, as he said, I have sworn in my wrath that they should not enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. For he spoke in a certain place of the 7th day in this way. And God rested the 7th day from all his works, and in this place again, they shall not enter into my rest. Since then it remains that some must enter into it, and since they to whom it was first preached did not enter in because of unbelief. Hebrews 4:1-6.
He again marks out a certain day, saying in David, Today, after so long a time, even as it is said today, if you will hear his voice and harden not your hearts. For if Joshua had given them rest, then he would not afterwards have spoken of another day. So then there remains a rest to the people of Jehovah, for he has entered into his rest, He also has ceased from his own works, as Jehovah did from his. Therefore, let us labor to enter into that rest, lest anyone fall after the same example of unbelief. For the word of Jehovah is living and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing apart of soul and spirit and of the joints and marrow, and it is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. Neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and open to the eyes of Jehovah, with whom we have to do. Hebrews 4:7-13.
This is telling us that we are striving to be in that seventh millennium of rest. And we are taught about this each week as we faithfully keep the seventh-day Sabbath. Passover and unleavened bread, the Passover.
These are the appointed feasts of Jehovah, holy convocations which you shall proclaim in their appointed seasons. And the 14th day of the first month between the evenings is Jehovah's Passover, and on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread to Jehovah. You must eat unleavened bread 7 days. On the seventh day you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no work of labor, but you shall offer a fire offering to Jehovah 7 days. And the seventh day is a holy convocation. You shall do no work or labor. Leviticus 23:4-8.
And right here is a clue for you to understand. Each feast day and holy day falls on a certain time of the year during a certain season.
And these are the appointed feasts of Jehovah, holy convocations which you shall proclaim in their appointed season. Leviticus 23:4.
Now concerning the times and the seasons, brothers, you have no need to have anything written to you. 1 Thessalonians 5:1.
Everything Jehovah does is done at appointed times and seasons, his Moedim. It is always on each of these holy days that Jehovah has done or is going to do something significant. You were told in this commandment, we are to keep the feast of unleavened bread for 7 days. It is an act of us sevening ourselves by putting sin out of our lives. But stop and note that the first day and the seventh day of unleavened bread are holy days. The first day of unleavened bread starts on the 15th day of the first month, is a holy day. They were to kill the lamb on the 14th day in the late afternoon and eat it after sunset that night, which was the start of the 15th day of Nisan and the first day of unleavened bread. I am sure you all are aware this evening, the end of the 14th day and the start of the 15th night, is representative of the night the death angel passed over the Israelites when they were still enslaved in Egypt. That night of the 15th, the death angel passed over and slew the firstborn of the Egyptians, but none of the Israelites who had the blood smeared on the doors. The Israelites left Egypt on the 15th day, the first holy day of the 7 days of unleavened bread, and they crossed the Red Sea at Nueva on the 7th day of unleavened bread. Each of these great events that Jehovah orchestrated took place on each of these holy days. He set aside for us as a dress rehearsal by which to learn from. Then, when Yeshua arrived on the scene, he was examined starting on the 10th day of the first month, very much in the same way the lambs were examined and brought into the homes before each lamb was killed on the 14th, roasted, and then each eaten after sunset on the 15th got underway, as the 15th got underway. Yeshua too was killed on the 14th, prior to the onset of the first high holy day of unleavened bread, and placed in the grave at the end of the 14th day. The particular year he was killed, the 14th, fell on a Wednesday. He was put in the grave before sunset and the start of the first day of unleavened bread, which began Wednesday night. Wednesday night and Thursday constitutes the first day of unleavened bread and the first high holy day, a Sabbath.
Since it was the day of preparation, and so that the bodies would not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high day, the Jews asked Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away. John 19:31.
Thursday night and Friday were the preparation day for the weekly Sabbath, which was Friday evening and Saturday day. These are the 3 days and the 3 nights our Messiah was in the grave. He rose from the grave late Sabbath afternoon before the start of the wave sheaf day, which began at sunset at the end of the Sabbath and the beginning of Saturday. The 7 days of unleavened bread also represent the 7th millennia of men here upon this earth. It is with this understanding that the expression found in the book of Revelation takes on more meaning.
And all dwelling on the earth will worship it, those whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Revelation 13:8.
Just as the Lamb was slain before the 7th millennia, so it was that before the 7 days of unleavened bread, on the 14th day, the Messiah, or the Lamb of God, was also slain. Wave Sheaf Day or Ascension Day. Christianity observes Easter Sunday and Pentecost Sunday based on these 2 holy days, that they have justified the keeping of Sunday as the Sabbath. What most Christians understand Easter Sunday to represent is the day that Jesus was resurrected. Ascension Sunday is what some also call it. But they have no idea that this day is described to them in the book of Leviticus. It is referred to here as Wave Sheaf Day.
Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you have come into the land which I give to you, and shall reap of the harvest of it, then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest, and you shall wave the sheaf before Jehovah to be received for you. And on the next day after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. Leviticus 23:10-11.
And he shall wave the sheaf before Jehovah to be received for you. On the next day after the Sabbath, the priest shall then wave it. This wave sheaf offering ceremony was performed the day after the Sabbath. The day after the Sabbath was then, and still is today, Sunday. This is the very same day Yeshua ascended into heaven with the other saints who came forth from the grave on the Sabbath when Yeshua came back to life. These are the first fruits that he led from captivity in the grave and are now in heaven with him.
And behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth quaked, and the rocks were sheared, and the tombs were open, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep arose. And coming out of the tomb after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. Matthew 27:51-53.
But late in the week, after the dawning of the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to see the tomb. Matthew 28:1.
Yeshua said to them, Woman, why do you weep? Whom do you seek? Suppose him to be their gardener. She said to him, Sir, if you have carried him away from here, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away. Yeshua said to her, Mary. She turned herself and said to him, Rabbi, which is to say, Master. Yeshua said to her, Do not touch me, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. But go to my brothers and say to them, I ascend to my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. John 20:15-17.
Yeshua was the wave offering, the first of the first fruits. He is what the wave offering, waved at 9 a.m. on the first day of the week during the 7 days of unleavened bread, represents each year. When Yeshua ascended at 9 a.m. that Sunday morning, he brought with him those saints that he had delivered from the grave the night before, as described in the Gospel of Matthew, as noted above.
Therefore, he says, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts to men. Ephesians 4:8.
You have gone up on high, you have led captivity captive. You have received gifts for men, yes, for the rebellious also, that you might dwell among them, O Jehovah God. Psalm 68:18.
All of this is told to us in Leviticus 23, verse 10. Had we been practicing the commandment, we would understand the deep meaning of the wave sheaf day and the full import of what it represents. But Christians do not practice this day and instead have perverted it and now call it Easter. Not only that, they have taken it to a whole new level and lost the meaning of it entirely. How so? By worshiping an egg-laying rabbit instead, an ancient fertility goddess, namely the fertility goddess Ishtar, after whom Easter is named. Pentecost. Christians also keep Pentecost Sunday, and it too comes from the book of Leviticus.
And you shall count to you from the next day after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. To the next day after the 7th Sabbath, you shall number 50 days, and you shall offer a new food offering to Jehovah. Leviticus 23:15 through 16.
When you count 50 days out from the day that he ascended to heaven, you get Pentecost Sunday. These two are connected, and they both come from Leviticus 23, which Christianity would have you believe has been done away with, and therefore you do not have to keep it. So, why do Christians keep Pentecost Sunday then? It was the day the law was given at Mount Sinai. Pentecost is the very day the Torah was given at Mount Sinai.
And it happened on the 3rd day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings, and a thick cloud upon the mountain. And the voice of the trumpet was exceedingly loud, so that all the people in the camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the lower part of the mountain. And Mount Sinai was smoking, all of it, because Jehovah came down upon it in fire. And the smoke of it went up like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long, and became very strong, Moses spoke, and God answered him by a voice. And Jehovah came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and Jehovah called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Exodus 19:16-20.
And Yahuwah said to Moses, Go down, command the people, lest they break through to Jehovah to gaze, and many of them perish. And let the priests also who come near Jehovah sanctify themselves, lest Jehovah break forth upon them. And Moses said to Jehovah, that the people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you commanded us, saying, Set bounds around the mountain and sanctify it. And Jehovah said to him, Away, you go down, you shall come up, and you and Aaron with you, but do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to Jehovah, lest he break forth upon them. And Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. Exodus 19:21-25.
And it was this very same day the Holy Spirit was imparted.
And in the fulfilling of the day of Pentecost, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly a sound came out of the heaven as borne along by the rushing of a mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And tongues as of fire appeared to them, being distributed, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled of the Holy Spirit, and began to speak in other languages, as the Spirit gave them utterance. And dwelling at Jerusalem there were Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. Acts 2:1-5.
But the sound occurring, the multitude came together and were confounded, because they each heard them speaking in his own dialect. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying to one another, Behold, are not these who speak all Galilean? How do we each hear in our own dialect in which we were born? Parthian and Medes and Elamites and the dwellers in Mesopotamia and Judea and Cappadocia and Pontus and Asia and Phrygia and Pamphylia, Pamphylia in Egypt and in the parts of Libya around Crete and the strangers of Rome and Jews, proselytes, Cretians, and Arabians. We hear them speaking the great things of Jehovah in our own language, and they were all amazed and were in doubt, saying to one another, what does this mean? Acts 2:6-12.
Do you see the pattern yet? Jehovah moves on each one of the holy days, and we are expected to be in the right place at the right time to learn what we need to witness it, learn from it, and be blessed by and/or protected from other events. But there is more to glean as well from this third holy day.
And you shall count to you from the next day after the Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. To the next day after the 7th Sabbath you shall number 50 days, and you shall offer a new food offering to Jehovah. You shall bring out of your homes 2 wave loaves of 2/10 parts. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baked with leaven, first fruits to Jehovah. And you shall offer with the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year, and 1 young bull, and 2 rams. They shall be for a burnt offering to Jehovah, with their food offering and their drink offerings, a fire offering of sweet savor to Jehovah. Leviticus 23:15-18.
Then you shall sacrifice 1 he-goat for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of peace offering. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits, a wave offering before Jehovah with the 2 lambs. And they shall be a holy to Jehovah for the priests. And you shall proclaim on the same day that it may be a holy convocation to you. You shall do no work of labor. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. And when you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not completely reap the corners of your field. When you reap the gleanings of your harvest, you shall not gather. You shall leave them to the poor and to the stranger. I am Jehovah your God. Leviticus 23:19-22.
Did you catch it? Just like the first wave offering that was presented for the barley during the 7 days of unleavened bread, there is another wave offering still waiting to be done with the wheat at Pentecost. When Yeshua ascended on the wave sheaf day in AD 31, he brought with him those saints who had died previously and rose from the grave after Yeshua himself rose from the grave late Saturday afternoon. There are many parables that speak of the wheat and the tares. You are to be counted amongst the wheat, that is, to be harvested, and not among the tares. The wheat is ground into flour and made into 2 loaves that are then to be waved. This is the day the Apostle Paul is referring to. Today, some would call it the rapture.
Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We all shall not sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised uncorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this corruptible must be put on uncorruption, and this mortal must be put on immortality. But when this corruptible shall have put on corruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall come to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. 1 Corinthians 15, 50-54.
Yehoshua answered and said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except one be born anew, he cannot see the kingdom of Jehovah. Nicodemus saith unto him, How can a man be born when he is old? Can he enter a second time into his mother's womb and be born? And Yehoshua answered, Verily, verily, I say unto thee, except one be born of water and the Spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of Jehovah. That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. John 3:3-6.
In exactly the same way that Yeshua rose from the dead, as did the saints rise from the dead and ascended into heaven on wave sheaf day in AD 31, so will those saints who have died since AD 31 and the years leading up to his second coming be raised up to meet him in the clouds on Pentecost.
But we would not have you ignorant, brethren, concerning them that fall asleep, that ye sorrow not, even as the rest who have no hope. For if we believe that Yeshua died and rose again, even so them also that have fallen asleep in Yeshua will God bring with him. For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we that are alive, that are left unto the coming of the Lord, shall in no wise precede them that are fallen asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we that are alive, that are left, shall together with them be caught up in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore comfort one another with these words. 1 Thessalonians 4:13 through 18.
To see what you are missing out on by not keeping these holy days, these are the very heart, soul, and core of what Christians think they know, but do not understand at all. You are also shown something else in the counting of the Omer, or the counting from the wave sheaf day to the day of Pentecost. You are being taught about the Jubilee cycles of Leviticus 25 and 26. When you count the Jubilee years, you can know when the 7th millennium rest spoken of in the book of Hebrews is to begin. Knowing that, in turn, allows you to know the secrets of Daniel's 70-week prophecy. The good part being, just by knowing these two things alone, you can know when the Messiah is to come, because Daniel 9:24 to 27 foreshadows this most specific future time. All of these things we explain much more in depth in our book, Remembering the Sabbatical Year of 2016, and the 2300 Days of Hell, which you can order on our website. The real problem arises, however, when those who do not keep the holy days of Leviticus 23 try to understand the New Testament and biblical prophecy. They have no solid foundation upon which to stand or build on. They are, in fact, clueless in that they are entirely unable to understand the clues afforded to them in Leviticus 23 when one faithfully and obediently keeps the holy days. We are instructed not to just be hearers of the word, but doers also. We learn far more by doing and heeding than we do by simply hearing and reading. When you count to Pentecost, counting of the Omer, as you were instructed in Leviticus 23, you are keeping the Feast of Weeks. It is this very clue Daniel 9 is speaking of. The Feast of Weeks is 7 weeks of counting the 7 Sabbaths from the feast wave sheaf up until Pentecost. It is the same as counting the Omer. The 7th Sabbath is 49 days, and the 50th day is the Pentecost Sunday. The Jubilee cycles also adhere to an identical dynamic. Within their framework, a sabbatical year occurs every 7th year. And then, once a total of 49 years transpires, the 50th year is the next year, which in turn doubles as the first year of the next round of counting of the sabbatical year. So, in other words, year 1 and year 50 are one and the same, exactly like Pentecost Sunday is. The 50th day is also the first day of the week. It is this understanding that is the key to unlocking the mystery behind the counting of Daniel's 70 weeks. And then, when we apply a year for each day, which we are shown in the book of Ezekiel, which prophesies of this very same concept as well, more depth of understanding is in turn revealed in Daniel 9. The Messiah would come after a 7 Feast of Weeks succession, or 7 times 49 years. This same Messiah would then come again after another 62 weeks of years succession, or another 62 times 49 years. Daniel then points out that in the very middle of that 70th week, or in the very middle of that 70th block of time of 49 years, the anointed would be cut off. If you want to learn more about this, we have laid it all out with all the appropriate scriptures in our book, The 2300 Days of Hell, where we look at Daniel 9, verses 24 to 27, and compare it to Daniel 8, so as to reveal the imminent meaning of this prophecy of our time. Finally, Daniel's 70th week prophecy gives way to the 7th millennium of rest. Again, all of this reveals to us the times that we are in right now and how we can know them. I'm sharing this to show you how much you do not understand because you do not keep the holy days and learn the deeper meaning they reveal to us about Jehovah's plan of salvation. There are 4 more holy days that we will cover next. Notice how Jehovah coordinated events on Passover with the crucifixion, and also Wave Sheaf Day with the ascension to heaven with the saints. Then we have the Exodus occurring on the first day of unleavened bread, and then on the 7th day of unleavened bread, we have the Israelites crossing the Red Sea. Finally, the last of the spring holy days is Pentecost, and the Torah was given on this day, along with the Holy Spirit. Do you see how each major event in which Jehovah acted or did some great thing all occurred on each of the holy days of Leviticus 23? Then what might he be planning to do for the remaining fall festivals? If you are not keeping them, then you will not know. The Feast of Trumpets.
And Jehovah spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the first day of the month, you shall have a Sabbath, a memorial summons, a holy convocation. You shall do no work of labor, but you shall offer a fire offering to Jehovah. Leviticus 23 through 25.
This is the first of the fall feasts, and there does not seem to be a lot available information on it. In fact, the Jews themselves do not understand the true meaning of this feast day. The Feast of Trumpets takes place on the first day of the 7th month. In Hebrew, it is called Yom Teruah, which means the day of shouting.
And in the 7th month, on the first of the month, you shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no laboring work. It is a day of blowing the trumpets to you. Numbers 29:1.
The Hebrew word for trumpets in Numbers 19, verse 1 is teruah. The Strong's Concordance is Hebrews or H8643 and is pronounced teruah. This is the meaning of the word. From H7321, clamor, that is, acclamation of joy or a battle cry, especially clangor of trumpets, as an alarum, an alarm, blowing, blow of the trumpets, joy, jubilee, loud noise, rejoicing, shout, shouting, high, joyful, sound, sounding. One of the unique things about Yom Teruah is that the Torah does not say what the purpose of this holy day is. The Torah gives at least one reason for all other holy days, and 2 reasons for some. The Feast of Matzot, the unleavened bread, commemorates the exodus from Egypt, but it is also a celebration of the beginning of the barley harvest. Exodus 23, verse 15, and Leviticus 23, verse 4 to 14. The Feast of Shavuot, weeks or Pentecost, is a celebration of the wheat harvest. Exodus 23, verse 16, 34, verse 20. Yom HaKippurim, the Day of Atonement, is a national day of atonement, as described in great detail in Leviticus 16. The Feast of Sukkot, Booths, or the Feast of Tabernacles, commemorates the wanderings of the Israelites in the desert, but it is also a celebration of the ingathering of agricultural produce. Exodus 23, verse 16. Shmidei Atzeret is another holy day that remains poorly understood and is kept at the 8th day of the Feast of Sukkot. In contrast to all these Torah festivals, Yom Teruah has no clear purpose other than that we are commanded to rest on this day. And just as each of the spring holy days coincides with an event in which Jehovah revealed himself to Israel or acted in a significant way on their behalf, so too are the fall holy days pictures of foreshadowed future events of Jehovah intervening in the affairs of man once again. Although the Jews do not know the true meaning of the Feast of Trumpets, it is, in truth, the historically and biblically accurate day that Yeshua was born on. You can learn more about this through following the articles on our website, Migdal Eder and the Birth of Messiah, or The Birthday of Yeshua, the Feast of Yom Teruah. And those can be found at these two links. Given the fact that the Feast of Trumpets is the heart and soul of this book, we will get into this in more detail in the following chapters. The Day of Atonement.
And Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, also on the 10th of the 7th month, this is the Day of Atonement. It shall be a holy convocation to you. You shall afflict your souls and offer a fire offering to Jehovah, and you shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, in order to make an atonement for you before Jehovah your God. For any soul who is not humbled in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And any soul who does any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. You shall do no kind of work. It shall be a statute forever through your generations in all your dwellings. It shall be to you a Sabbath of rest, and you shall humble your souls. In the 9th of the morning, the 9th of the month at evening, from evening to evening, you shall keep your Sabbath. Leviticus 23, 26 through 32.
This is such a profoundly complex topic. I could easily devote an entire day to it. Suffice it to say, this is the day Satan is locked away. Compare Leviticus 16 with Revelation 20.
And Jehovah spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, when they offered before Jehovah and they died. And Jehovah said to Moses, speak to Aaron your brother, that he does not come at all times into the sanctuary within the veil, before the mercy seat, which is on the ark, so that he will not die, for I will appear in the cloud on the mercy seat. Leviticus 16, 1 through 2.
And Aaron shall come into the sanctuary this way with a bull, a son of the herd, for a sin offering, and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall put on the holy linen coat, and shall have the linen breeches on his flesh, and he shall be girded with a linen girdle, and with the linen mitre he shall be dressed. These are holy garments, and he shall wash his flesh in water and put them on. And he shall take from the congregation of the sons of Israel 2 kids of the goats for a sin offering, and 1 ram for a burnt offering. And Aaron shall offer his young bull of the sin offering, which is for himself, and make an atonement for himself and for his house. And he shall take the 2 he-goats and present them before Jehovah at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And Aaron shall cast lots on the 2 he-goats, 1 lot for Jehovah, and the other lot for a complete removal. And Aaron shall bring the goats on which Jehovah's lot fell, and offer it for a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell, to be a complete removal, shall be presented alive before Jehovah, to make an atonement with him, to let him go for a complete removal into the wilderness. Leviticus 16, 3 through 10.
And Aaron shall bring the young bull of the sin offering, which is for himself, and shall atone for himself and for his house, and shall kill the young bull of the sin offering, which is for himself. And he shall take a censer full of coals of fire from off the altar before Jehovah, and his hands full of fragrant perfumes beaten small, and bring it within the veil. And he shall put the incense on the fire before Jehovah, and the cloud of the incense shall cover the mercy seat that is on the testimony, and he shall not die. And he shall take of the blood of the young bull, and shall sprinkle with his finger on the front of the mercy seat eastward. And he shall sprinkle at the front of the mercy seat 7 times from the blood with his finger. Leviticus 16:11 through 14.
Then he shall kill the goat of the sin offering that is for the people, and bring its blood inside the veil. He shall do with that blood as he did with the blood of the young bull, and sprinkle it on the mercy seat and before the mercy seat. And he shall atone for the sanctuary because of the uncleanness of the sons of Israel, because of their transgression and all of their sins. And so he shall do for the tabernacle of the congregation, which remains with them in the midst of the uncleanness. And there shall be no man in the tabernacle of the congregation when he goes in to make an atonement in the sanctuary, until he comes out and he has made an atonement for himself and for his household and for all the congregation of Israel. And he shall go out to the altar that is before Jehovah and make an atonement for it. Leviticus 16:15 through 18.
And he shall take some of the blood of the young bull and of the blood of the goat, and put it on the horns of the altar all around. And he shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his finger 7 times, and cleanse it, and hallow it from the uncleanness of the sons of Israel. And when he has made an end of reconciling the sanctuary and the tabernacle of the congregation and the altar, he shall bring the live goat. And Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat, and confess over him all the sins of the sons of Israel, and all their transgressions and all the sins, putting them on the head of the goat, and shall send away by the hand of a chosen man into the wilderness. And the goat shall bear on him all their sins to a land in which no one lives, and he shall let the goat go in the wilderness. Leviticus 16:8 through 22.
And Aaron shall come into the tabernacle of the congregation and shall strip off the linen garments which he put on when he went into the sanctuary, and shall leave them there. And he shall wash his flesh with water in the holy place, and put on his garments, and come forth and offer his burnt offerings and the burnt offerings of the people, and make an atonement for himself and for the people. And the fat of the sin offering shall he burn on the altar. Leviticus 16:23 through 25.
And he that let go the goat for the complete removal shall wash his clothes and bathe his flesh in water, and afterward come into the camp. And the young bull for the sin offering, and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought in to make atonement in the holy place, shall they carry forth outside the camp. And they shall burn their skins in the fire, and their flesh and their dung. And he who burns them shall wash his clothes and bathe his flesh in water, and afterward he shall come into the camp. Leviticus 16:26 through 28.
And it shall be a statute forever to you in the 7th month, on the 10th of the month, you shall afflict your souls and do no work at all. And the native and the alien who is staying among you, for on that day an atonement shall be made for you to cleanse you, so that you may be clean from all your sins before Jehovah. And it shall be a Sabbath of rest to you, and you shall afflict your souls by a statute forever. And the priest whom you shall anoint, and whom he shall consecrate to minister to the priest's office in his father's stead, shall make an atonement, and shall put on the linen clothes and the holy garments. And he shall make an atonement for the holy sanctuary, and he shall make an atonement for the tabernacle of the congregation and for the altar. And he shall make an atonement for the priests and for all the peoples of the congregation. And this shall be an everlasting statute to you, to make an atonement for the sons of Israel for their sins once a year. And he did as Jehovah commanded Moses. Leviticus 16:29 through 34.
The primary point you need to focus on is encapsulated in verse 10 and 21 and 22.
But the goat on which the lot fell for Azazel shall be set alive before Jehovah to make atonement for him, to send him away for Azazel into the wilderness. Leviticus 16:10.
And Aaron shall lay both his hands upon the head of the live goat and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel, and all of their transgressions, even all their sins. And he shall put them upon the head of the goat, and shall send him away by the hand of the man that is in readiness into the wilderness. And the goat shall bear upon him all the iniquities upon a solitary land, and he shall let the goat go in the, or excuse me, he shall let go the goat in the wilderness. Leviticus 16:21 through 22.
And the Apostle John wrote of this very same event in the future, and now the very near future for us.
And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the abyss and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent who is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. And he cast him into the abyss, and shut him up, and set a seal on him, that he should deceive the nations no more until the 1,000 years shall be fulfilled. And after that he must be loosed a little time. Revelation 21 through 3.
This is a very important holy day to Jehovah. Why then is Christianity not keeping it and teaching about it, as it is the day Satan is to be locked away? The Feast of Sukkot. The sixth feast of the 7 annual holy days is the Feast of Sukkot, also known as the Feast of Tabernacles. This is a 7-day-long feast, and it represents the wedding that we, as Christians, are striving to be part of. It is the marriage of the Messiah to his bride. The 8th day feast. The 8th day feast is known to Christians as the Great White Throne Judgment.
And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat upon it, from whose face the earth and the heavens fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, and the great and the small, standing before the throne, and the books were open. And another book was open, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of the things which were written in the books, according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead that were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. And death and Hades were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death, even the lake of fire. And if any was not found written in the book of life, he was cast into the lake of fire. Revelations 20:11 through 15.
Each of the 4 fall holy days represents events that are to take place in the future around the end of the 6th millennial day and the start of the 7th millennial day, and then again at the start of the 7th millennial day and the start of the 8th millennial day. The new heaven and the new earth.
And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea no longer is. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, made ready as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of the throne saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his peoples. And God himself shall be with them, and be their God. And he shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more. The first things are passed away. And he that sitteth on the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said, Write, for these words are faithful and true. And he said unto me, They are come to pass. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcometh shall inherit these things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But for the fearful and the unbelieving and the abominable, the murderers and fornicators and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars, their part shall be in the lake that burn with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Revelation 21:1 through 8.
The New Jerusalem.
And there come There come one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls, who were laden with the seven last plagues. And he spake up with me, saying, Come hither, I will show thee the bride, the wife of the Lamb. And he carried me away in the spirit to a mountain great and high, and showed me the holy city Jerusalem, coming down out of the heavens from God, having the glory of God. Her light was like unto a stone most precious, and it was as it were a jasper stone, clear as crystal, having a wall great and high, having 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. And on the east were 3 gates, and on the north 3 gates, and on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. Revelations 21:9 through 14.
And he that had spoken with me had for a measure a golden reed to measure the city, and the gates thereof, and the walls thereof. And the city lied 4 square, and the length thereof is as great as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height thereof are equal. And he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man that is of an angel. Revelation 21:15 through 17.
And the building of the wall thereof was jasper, and the city was pure gold, like unto pure glass. The foundations of the wall of the city were adorned with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, and the second sapphire, the third chalcedonia, and the fourth emerald. The fifth is sardonyx, and the sixth is sardius, and the seventh is chrysolite, and the eighth is beryl, and the ninth is topaz, and the 10th is chrysoprase, and the 11th is jacinth, and the 12th is amethyst, and the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each one of the several gates was one pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as if it were transparent glass. Revelations 28:18 through 21.
And I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God the Almighty and the Lamb are the temple thereof. And the city hath no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine upon it. For the glory of God did lighten it. And the lamp thereof is the Lamb. And the nations shall work amidst the light thereof, and the king of the earth bring their glory into it. And the gates thereof shall in no wise be shut by day, for there shall be no night there. And they shall bring the glory and the honor of the nations into it. And there shall be in no wise enter into it anything unclean, or he that maketh an abomination and a lie, but only they that are written in the Lamb's book of life. Revelation 21:22 through 27.
This is why it's so important to keep each holy day, so that we can learn from the future events and understand the plan of Jehovah. We've only spoken briefly about each of the holy days, and there is so much more to be said on that. But this book is about the day and the hour that no man knows, and we are about to show you which holy days this Hebrew idiom is in reference to.
Thank you, Samba. We're going to stop there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I don't know about you guys. I got excited listening to that. That has got to be one of the greatest chapters I've ever put together. And I want to, I come from the Worldwide Church of God, and they pounded it into us every year what each of the holy days mean. And so for me not to learn that people don't understand the meaning of the holy days is kind of stunning. But then before I went to the Worldwide Church of God, I didn't know them either. But they're super important. They're super important. And for those people that are new here today, I hope, if you got questions about it, now's the time to ask, or, this is the place to ask about. This is what we're here to help you understand, help you to learn. The Feast of Shouting, the Feast of Trumpets. Why is this such a big deal? No, why am I making such a big stink about this one feast day?
You can't ask that question today because you're going to talk about that in the chapters 16, 17, 18, and 19.
I know. I
It's-
want you to start thinking about it. Who's that, Glenn? Was it?
Yeah. Are
Don't
you
be
asking the
giving-
question?
No, I'm not. You gotta be quiet. You know the answer.
Yes, I do. I was going to say it, but I'll hold back if that's what you'd like.
And what I want you to think now. The one feast day, the Feast of Trumpets, and you're not told anything about it except to shout. Okay, so now my first year amongst Messianics in 2005, they kept the Feast of Trumpets, and they had all the kids running around with those little party horns going around blowing. I thought this is the most ridiculous thing until it dawned on me what they were doing. And then it was like, wow, of course. Whenever you have your birthday for your son, the day your son is born, your first son is born, men they used to give out cigars at work. There used to be a celebration. I've had my first son. Eric.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that the more you know about these future feasts, these next three that are coming, the fall feast, the more
Eric,
you begin.
Start again, Eric. You're breaking up. You're in and out. Just start
Sorry,
again.
I was just saying the more you understand the next three feasts that have to be fulfilled by Yeshua, the more you understand the hints that are given, like in Colossians 2:16, which
Exactly.
a lot of people misinterpret, like it says, so let no one judge you in food or drink or festival or new moon or Sabbath. And they stop right there and they don't think about what it says next. But he's talking to believers in Colossians. And he basically is saying, listen, you're going to change what you eat, how you drink. And there are festivals, a new moon and Sabbath, which is basically the next three feasts he hasn't fulfilled yet, because in 17 it goes,
Okay, so
which are a shadow.
It's four feasts. There's four feasts, and they're not three.
Well, I'm just saying these particular feasts, this one is saying regarding the festival, new moon, or Sabbath. So it's talking about multiple Sabbaths. So that may be included in that part right there. But this is specifically mentioning three things: a festival, a new moon, and a Sabbath.
Yeah.
And it says, which are shadow things to come, but the substance is of Christ. So if you just take those two verses, and it's saying that something hasn't happened yet. He hasn't fulfilled all of the law yet. He hasn't fulfilled the literal application of these laws yet. And so there is something that he still has to do. It says, then it goes on to say, let no one cheat you in reward, taking delight in false humility and worship of angels, intruding into these things which he has not seen, vainly puffed up in his fleshly mind, and not holding fast to the head. The head is Christ. And we have seen the fulfillment partially of some of the feasts already. We still have Passover and Sukkot to go in the future too. But it says, nourished and knit together by joints and ligaments, grows with the increase that is from God. So he's saying in Colossians, he's saying in 2:16 that something is coming in the future, and it's hinting at it here. All it's doing is hinting. The question is, can you tie the two together?
Yeshua spoke in parables to the crowds. Even the apostles, he had to explain things to them afterwards. But like you just said, he's hinting at things. It's the same when he was hanging on the cross. He hinted at Psalm 22. He hinted at Isaiah 52 and 53 by the things that he said and the things that were going on. So people would clue into what was being said then as to what was happening at that time. These holy days are doing the exact same thing. They give you clues. Now, in that chapter, we went through all of Leviticus 16. Because the book's not about Leviticus 16, so I took a little bit extra space here, and I put all of Leviticus 16 in there to point out the huge event that is spoken of there, which only gets a couple verses in Revelation, what is it, 20? But it's a whole big day event that Aaron was doing year after year, signifying when Satan was going to be locked away. Now, that, again, just like Wave Sheaf Day is not a holy day. But it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm going to talk about that this weekend down here, but it's a huge deal because when you understand Wave Sheaf Day, then you understand Shavuot. If you don't understand Wave Sheaf Day, then Shavuot is just, the giving of the Holy Spirit. Whoop-de-doo. Next story. But suddenly now it becomes real, becomes important to you. And Shavuot's a holy day, but Wave Sheaf isn't. So now we look at, we got this big deal going on the Day of Atonement, but there's something else being said there that's not said. It's not even spoken of. It's called the 10 days of awe. And they're not told to you. There's no commandment to keep the 10 days of awe. What does that mean? What do we do? Why is it such? Because this is where the 10 plagues of Egypt come from. That was Passover, but this is where the 10 trumpets come from. This is where the 10 judgments come from. And they start with Yom Teruah. So, Sombra.
So as you're talking about it, you're looking at it from the birth of Yeshua and that perspective.
No, it's just one perspective.
Right. That's what I was getting to, because the way I was initially introduced to it all is that the whole book of the Bible is a love story. And so it's all about choosing the bride and then bringing her to the point where there's a betrothal. And then there's a period of time where she has to work out learning to live according to the ketubah so that we can decide whether or not so the groom can decide whether or not the bride is prepared to be his bride or not. And then there's a wedding after that. And so this Yom Teruah day is the day that the trumpet is blown so that the whole community can know that the bridegroom is coming for his bride. That blowing of the shofar says it's time for everybody to get ready, get your garments on, start making the food, start preparing, because the bridegroom is coming. The bride has to have her white linen dress on. The family of the bride is, preparing the food, and everybody's making the decorations in the celebration. We have to know when he's coming. And we don't know when he's coming because that's the father's job to decide when his son is ready, because the son has gone to prepare a home for his bride.
But so just, what you're saying, I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm kind of disagreeing with your timing of it. That shouting is the time that he arrives, in my understanding, is when he's arriving, and that we need to be getting ready for it by that day of shouting. And then, if you're not ready, well, let's see, start to get ready. Yeah, maybe I missed it.
Yeah, because Yom Kippur is that moment.
Moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yom Kippur is the moment when he judges, are you ready or not? And that's when the groom goes around the bride. That's a decision-making time to decide, I'm inspecting her to find out if she's ready or not. There's also another time when the bride goes around the groom to inspect him to decide whether he is ready or not, whether she accepts him or not. This is the ceremony in the Jewish wedding, right? But these parts of the ceremony all have representation in these feast days that we're talking about. And so the Yom Teruah is the blowing of the shofar saying, the bridegroom's coming, the bridegroom's coming. Prepare the way for the bridegroom. So what you're talking about, the 10 days of awe, these are the 10 days or the 10 periods of time between that shofar being blown and when that judgment is. Because if that betrothed bride doesn't pass the mustard in that moment, that's the moment he gets to give her a divorce and send her back to her father.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't proceed to the Feast of Tabernacles, which is the wedding feast.
Yeah. So we have, we also, I want to point out another thing here before I go to Sarkis. We also spent in this chapter a little more time on the 3 days and 3 nights. The 3 days and 3 nights, starting Wednesday night, ending Saturday night, those 3 days and 3 nights, we spent extra time on this. And I want to just point out to you that once you've seen that and once you've accepted that as correct, Wednesday night, so Wednesday night and Thursday day is the first day, Thursday night and Friday day is the second day, Friday night and Saturday day is the 3 days and 3 nights. And he comes out of the grave at the end of that time. Once you understand that and get that in your brain, now I've got you. I've got you. Because you're convinced it's 3 days and 3 nights. He came out at the end of the Sabbath, and the first day of the week, Mary meets him. You agree with that. Now we're about to move into next week. We'll move into some of this other stuff, and you're going to know by just that which calendar you're going to follow. Sarkis. Sarkis, turn your mic on.
Okay. Concerning Yom Kippur, I shared this a long time ago. There are patterns related to Passover. You cannot have Passover until the first 10 days, you're observing the lamb that to be sacrificed. So the people are observing the lamb, and then on the 14th, they kill it and eat it on the evening of the 15th. Okay.
How many days? Sarkis, excuse me. How many days you say you observe a lamb for? How many days?
10 days.
No, you observe it for 4 days. You pick it on the 10th day.
You
Right.
pick it, but you pick it, you have 10 days to pick it. It's the
Okay.
same thing with Yom Kippur. You have 10 days for Jehovah to pick us. All right.
Okay.
The patterns are there. And then on the 15th is the Feast of Tabernacle. And guess what? You eat the Passover on the eve that starts the 15th, after sunset on the 14th. So
Yeah.
it's the same thing. Okay. So you kill it on the 14th, but you eat it that evening. Okay. Between twilights. And the point here is we are doing the observation now to know him. But then he is going to do the observation, checking us to make sure, are we ready for him? That's the pattern. You have to look at both those two feast events are meant to show us that who is interested in the Messiah, in Jehovah.
There's another pattern, and I didn't hear you bring it up. Have you got one more or not?
Well, I have to remind me.
So he was with the apostles after his crucifixion for 40 days.
That's right.
And he went up to heaven on the 40th day. Why didn't he stay the extra 10 days? It's connected to our time now.
Absolutely.
It's connected to the 10 days of awe. It's connected to the choosing of the lamb. You're right. There's patterns in all of these things that you have to be looking at.
Well, I just wanted to share that part. That's because we as believers, we need to get to know him so that he would know us. If we don't know him, then he would he can never he could say to us, I never knew you.
That's John, John 5:46. If you want to get to know him, you got to read the books of Moses, because Moses wrote about him. And this is where he wrote about him. In
That's right.
holy days, which we no longer have to keep according to Christianity, which were nailed to the cross. And we don't have to keep, and that's why the rapture is any day of the year, the second coming, it could be at any moment. They don't know, they're just guessing. But if you understand the holy days, and this is why I make a big stink about it all the time. There's so much prophetic understanding and getting to know him in them. Okay,
So
Sarkis,
that's
you good?
important what you said, Joe, that it doesn't
I'm
just
done.
fall on any day of the week. And that's another one of those clues to know whether or not the way. So the Pharisees kept that the Pharisees kept that the wave sheaf day is always the 16th day of the month. It's always the day after the high Sabbath of Passover. That means it can fall on any day of the week.
Well, they only started that after the temple was destroyed.
Well, that part I don't know, but I know the Sadducees counted it the other way, that
Before and during the time of Yeshua, there was a debate as to when it would begin. And that started around 140, 150 BC. And it was a debate. But they all kept it one way because it was not brought up in any other fashion until after the temple was destroyed. Then it got redacted by Rabbi Akiva and then later by Rabbi Yehuda in 180 AD. So it was a process of time. But yes, it was started off as a debate. Ella, go ahead.
I was just going to say those 10 days after he left on the 40th day, those next 10 days were to be spent watching and waiting and longing, I would hope, for his return, but to share what they knew about him at that time and wait to be filled with the promise of his spirit. Waiting to get the power to live the life that he was wanting them to live.
Well,
That's what those 10 days were about.
There are things that they were told to do. Those, like Sarkis said, these are patterns that were being acted out at that time that you can amplify to turn into the 10 years of awe, or to turn into the 10 days of awe in the annual holy day. But you can extract things out of that to get further understanding. Again, like John 5:46 is, so that you come to know him. Why does he tell the 5 foolish virgins, I never knew you? They never bothered with Moses. They never kept the holy days. They never wanted to learn. They never wanted to get to know our Creator. You good, Ella?
Yes. Yeah. It was the same today, and we're still watching and waiting and trying to get to know him better and to live the life he wants us to live. And I want to stress that life is a life of love to one another. That's what the Father's all about. He's about love.
Yeah. Summer, go ahead. Am I saying that right, Summer?
Just like the season.
Oh, Summer. Okay.
It's just spelled the German spelling. I'm just starting to learn all of this. I finished the Riddle book last month. I'm on to the sabbatical years, and so
so hang on. You finished the Riddle last month.
Yeah.
So now you're ready to start teaching people about it, right?
No. So, and then I just started, I'm about halfway through the sabbatical years. And so this is all newer information. I wouldn't say I've found a landing place yet, but then I also hear.
Which book are you referring to sabbatical years? Do you remember the sabbatical years 2016?
Yes.
Okay, good enough.
And so as I've been reading
I
these,
mean, one more question before you carry on, because you said you haven't found a landing spot. How long you been keeping Torah?
2 years this fall.
And what, may I ask what faith or what church you came out of?
I have not been part of any faith for the last 20 years.
Oh, a real sinner.
I thought I was what do you call it? Not agnostic. What's the other one? I thought I was an atheist.
Okay.
But I was raised Mormon, so I had some foundational
Okay.
upbringing. Anyways.
Right. So now I got a little bit of background on you. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
So it was all these dots were connecting for me as I read the books, and I was feeling great and referencing scripture, and it was making a lot of sense. And then this whole thing on the Sukkot started to pop up.
What thing on Sukkot?
On his return being Sukkot.
Well, who said that?
I'd rather not say.
Okay, but it wasn't me though.
No.
Okay.
No. So an outside source.
Yeah.
And the reference was to I think it was Ezekiel, maybe, when he says that he will tabernacle with us, and that somehow relates. And so I hope that wasn't already answered, because I've been interrupted by teenagers during the meeting here, but I was hoping you could shine some light on it a little bit.
Okay, so the Riddle book is about his return. It's about when he's coming back. It's about when he was born. So the other people who don't agree with that, they use that word tabernacled with us, and that's their justification for, well, that must be the Feast of Tabernacles or the Feast of Sukkot. Therefore, that's when he was born. Therefore, that's when he's coming back. And that's all they got. They don't have, like in the Riddle book, we are giving you scriptures after scriptures about each of the holy days, connecting the Old Testament, Leviticus 23, with the book of Revelation. And we do it repeatedly over and over and over again, because you read the book of Revelation, nobody understands it. But when you read it in relation to Leviticus, oh, suddenly it makes sense. So you're new and you're getting both sides here. So obviously my side's biased, and I'm going to be arguing for my side. And so, Somber's wanting to read the book. I'm glad she did. That way it doesn't sound like I'm being vain pushing my books here, but I think it's a really good book. You have to decide this. You have to, it's because, we say in our invitation to come here that we are coming here to wrestle with the word. We wrestle with the word. That's the Torah. That's the same thing Jacob did. He wrestled with the word, and he prevailed.
Broke his hip.
He broke his hip. He had to get his hip broke to let go. So that's how much you got to hang on.
Yeah.
And that's what we do here. And,
I feel like the strongest point of evidence I have from reading this book, or maybe it was the one I'm in now, I can't recall. The strongest point of evidence I have for me right now is the discussion of the new moon, and how the first day of that 7th month is the only one where we cannot predict down to the day or the hour. And it just seemed like such strong evidence to me.
Ba-boom.
Okay. Thank
So,
you.
okay. So what I was referring to earlier when I said, we're talking about the 3 days and 3 nights. I've now planted the trap so that when you go to talk about the new moon, and we give you the evidence of the new moon in the book of Revelation, you can't deny this. You've got too much overwhelming evidence. And then you add to that, which is the whole point of the book, no man knows the day or the hour. No, that's not talking about you can't know when he's coming. It's talking to those people who aren't going to obey. You can't know anything about when he's coming.
Right.
You're only going to guess because you don't know the idiom that this means, or the parable that this is representing. So,
okay.
those people who come up with the other counter arguments, you don't get a chance to present everything in one sitting. They let you get in a couple of things and then they kick it out and they go back to their stuff and they won't hear. That's why I had to do the book, so that somebody would sit down and listen to it from start to finish and not be interrupted. And then once they got done, then they could judge. They have all the evidence. And so that's what you're doing right now. You are now in the process of, okay, I've read this guy's book, and it kind of makes a lot of sense. Now, here comes Satan. He's going to try and get you before you get locked in to throw you a curveball. Okay, good. Everyone gets thrown a curveball. What are you going to do with it? What is it that they're saying that because a lie is always the truth, but only part of the truth. And that's what makes a good lie work. So you got to figure out, what did they leave out? What evidence are they leaving out of their story?
I was just really wondering if you had any kind of insight on the foundation of the tabernacle Sukkot connection, and so that I could reconcile that in my own mind,
Okay, so again, the other part is that they say that Jesus was baptized, or no, Jesus was circumcised on the 8th day. Therefore, Sukkot is 7 days. On the 8th day is the circumcision. Boom. But there's
right. Yes, I heard that too.
Okay. Except it doesn't hold water. Mary's not allowed to go up to the tabernacle because she's unclean for 40 days. Right? So you did not have to go up to the temple to circumcise your child. You can circumcise your child anywhere.
Okay.
Right?
Right,
So
right.
you don't have to go to the temple to do that. But they did go up to the temple to make an offering. And I got to refresh my mind because I don't know exactly when they did that. So again, you're going to get bombarded with stuff. And what I'm hoping the book will do for you and whoever else is reading it is get you all the facts and ground you in what I believe to be the truth, and ground you in that truth, so that when you get fed these other things, you can now start to know, because that means you're leaving out this information. So again, I disagree with Sukkot stuff as being the birth of Yeshua. If you go through the things of David, what the divisions of David, what's that called?
It's not of David. You mean
Of the Levitical priests.
right?
The priestly orders.
Priestly orders. Thank you.
Yeah, priestly orders.
When you go through the priestly orders and you count them out from the time when John the Baptist was first conceived and Mary's told, and the time that she went to spend with Elizabeth, and then from the time that she gets pregnant, and you count that out accurately, I think it's 40 weeks.
Right, because of the 6th month and all of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you work that out, it comes out on the Day of Atonement. And that's 2 weeks before, again, you got to add in I think an extra month, a 13th month in that to make it work. But that comes out 2 weeks before Sukkot. So okay. Either if it's Sukkot, he's a 42-month baby. If it's trumpets, he's a 40-month baby.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
But they're just small things. Again, get grounded in the truth, all the Bible, not just cherry picking certain parts, but the whole Bible, and all these other theories or teachings fall apart.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for reading the books too.
Of course.
Sarkis, was there somebody up before Sarkis that's dropped off? Okay, Sarkis, go ahead.
Yep. Deb had her hand raised.
Deb, did you want to go first?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I think Sombra already answered the question I had put in chat, and it was on the section in the book starts that she was reading, beginning on Sabbath. And there is a sentence in there where we're talking about it reads, the weekly Sabbath is an act of sevening ourselves each week. It is pledging allegiance to Jehovah by keeping it holy and learning more about him in study, communicating in prayer and in resting, and in spending quality time with your family. The last sentence says it is best of all possible days for family time, in fact. My question there is, for instance, this morning, our family had a breakfast get together. Our family are not Torah keepers. We're the only ones who keep Sabbath. They're all Catholic or Baptist. I chose not to go, and my husband went because he thinks it's a good thing to be with family. I've been accused by somebody in my family when I didn't keep the Sabbath of being a bad example. I'm not sure which direction to go with that.
Okay, so I'm also like that. I have a spouse who's not a believer. She's born and raised Catholic, and she's a Christmas, Easter Catholic and going to church every once in a while. And my whole family are Catholics, and her family are all Catholics. So it becomes a challenge when everything that your family does is on Shabbat. And some of those events on Shabbat you can't do consciously. So how do you do that? It's a balancing act, and it's not there's black and white. You do this, you do that. It's something that you have to figure out. Would it have been better? So you don't sound like you're a spring chicken. So would it have been better to have skipped today's meeting, to go and spend time with your family and have a meal with them? Again, the problem is you could probably go out to a restaurant and having to buy lunch or breakfast, whatever. But could you have done that at somebody's house and had a meal with them? And it's a once in a while thing. Yeah, I'm planning on doing that here in the next month. I'm going to play hooky here one day and go and spend it with my family at my sister's place. My dad's coming in and families are all getting together. So I'm going to do that. I don't do it very often, but I'm going to do it. In the past, going to church every Saturday or going to the Worldwide Church of God or United Church of God every Saturday, it caused problems. And I wasn't mature enough to figure out how to balance it. And we still got problems that come from that. You have to figure it out.
We have an example in scripture, is that guy Naaman who was healed of his leprosy. And when he was healed of his leprosy by going and dunking himself in the Jordan River 7 times, he then comes back. Sorry?
He had to go with the general.
Then afterwards, his job required him to go and bow to these foreign gods, even though he was recognizing that Jehovah was the one true God and he was only supposed to bow to him. He says, God, please forgive me. So there are times when you are caught between a rock and a hard place. And the best thing to do in that time is to acknowledge to Jehovah, I am about to sin. I'm about to do something that I know you've told me not to do. And I don't know how to get out of this in my flesh for the moment. Forgive me for what I'm about to do and help me to find a way to not do it in the future. So, if you've got to go out to breakfast with your family, going out to breakfast with your family is a good thing. But then there's that thing of spending the money. Is there any way, God forgive me in this moment, but is there any way in the future that maybe they would come to my house and I would hostess them instead and I would provide for them, which means I'm worshiping God through building family relationship. At the same time, I'm obeying God by not spending on the Sabbath. Or you could go out and fellowship with them at the restaurant and just choose not to eat anything. You're not spending any money. These are really hard ways that you have to figure out how to negotiate all this for yourself, and nobody else can tell you how to do it because nobody else is walking this particular relationship with you and Jehovah. And that's why I said, give glory to him in everything that you do. God, I'm giving glory and honor to you, the fact that I'm here building family relationship, even though I'm in a restaurant on Shabbat and I know I'm not supposed to be here. And it's the recognition of the sin. And then he'll just say, I die for that sin.
Yeah, but that's not planning to sin in advance.
No, but there are some times when you are in a situation and you can't figure out. It's like you were saying, you were immature, right? You were immature.
But you can always, hey, you know what? Let's not do it on Saturday. Let's have the family reunion meeting, supper, breakfast, lunch, Sunday morning. Let's do it then. And
but then that inconveniences all the Catholic people who've got to get to church, or
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, but
they're convicted not to spend money on Sunday.
But they're used to going out after Sunday church to go to a restaurant for meals. So we can do that then.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's ways to figure it out. There's ways to try it. We're all being tested. And for me to sit there and point at you and condemn you to hell because you screwed up, it would be hypocritical because I've screwed up many times myself. So you have got to learn how to fight to keep the Sabbath holy, fight to learn how to get closer to Jehovah on the Sabbath, and in the balance, work with your family to get closer with them.
I just want to answer one thing that Glenn said, because Glenn's kind of hard-nosed, and so are you, Joe. And I'm more on the relationship side, right? I have a softer way of dealing with things. And Glenn said, no sinning, refuse to the death, no excuse, no compromise, or you will always find a reason to compromise. Sorry, in my opinion. And I recognize that that's my brother, and I honor him in that. And if that's the way Deb wants to negotiate that, then that's the way Deb wants to negotiate that. And that's a good thing. But you have to remember, there is one who is a much better forgiver than others. People don't forgive. Jehovah always forgives. If I'm going to err on the side of caution, I'm going to err on the side that Jehovah is going to forgive me more than the people are going to forgive me. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, but I also, you call me a hard ass, and I kind of agree with Ben. If you begin compromising and on the holy days or the Sabbath, you will always be able to compromise, and the tests never stop. They never. I remember I cheated on the Sabbath. I cheated on the holy days when I first began to do this walk. It was a year before that ever got easy. Or easier. It was painfully hard to take the Sabbath off every weekend. It always something coming up because I compromised. So I get what Glenn's saying, and I agree with that. But you have to find your own path. What's black and white for Glenn or black and white for Joe is not black and white for Sombra. It may be the same black and white, but Sombra just got rose-colored glasses on. Right?
I'm a multicolored gal. Yep.
Okay. We got to get going here, folks. Sarkis, you had your hand up before. Excuse me. Go ahead.
I was going to answer two questions. One is that Matthew 22nd, where Yeshua talks about the parable of the king deciding to have a wedding for his son, and he invites people, and those, to keep it short, he sends his messengers. The first one was refused. The second one, they beat him up. The third one, they kill him. So he sends his army and he kills the ones who killed his messengers, but tells his servants, Those who were invited, they're not worth it. Go to the streets and the highways and fill my wedding. So what it is, it's the story of Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. That's the event of the parable. That's my understanding.
Okay.
And the judgment comes on Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement, because they've chosen not to show up, and he invites others, and they choose to come.
Yeah.
So that is the invitation. But there are 7 days of feast. The wedding happens on the 8th day. That is
The consummation of the wedding takes place on the 8th
yes,
day.
yeah. But the wedding is 7 days of celebration.
Yep.
And the point here is, Yeshua makes it clear in his parables, in his teachings, about what's the fall feast is all about, right there and then. And those people who claim to be believers, they're gonna find out they're gonna reject him, just like it happened at his first coming. It's nothing new. History will repeat itself. Okay, that's my point.
That's also part of the, Paul said there's going to be a great falling away.
Yes, exactly.
You can't fall away if you're never there.
That's right.
So who's falling away?
Those who call themselves believers.
Yeah. People
because they refuse to recognize him as Lord and Savior. They want a Santa Claus. Just give me gifts and forget it. Anyway, to respond to some
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at Deb here. It's not a spring chicken since 1986.
If there's conflict with family members, it's easier to negotiate than to have arguments. Negotiating would be like an example. I'm a sales guy. I have to learn. I learn how to negotiate. I could easily say to my family, "What if I'm working on Shabbat? We can't meet anyway. So you need to respect my time, just like I respect your time. So I want to be with you, and I know you want to be with me, and so let's find a common." So what happens is, in a lot of family issues, is there is a lot of emotions involved instead of reasoning. And I think maybe writing a letter that helps to help each one of us, including, be able to write a letter and explain without having emotions involved. And you don't have to give the letter to them; you just read it to them, so that you're controlling their emotions, and they can't. So you have a time to respond. And unfortunately, whenever we talk about any religious issues, emotions flare up, and there's no reasoning. That's my thought.
Okay, agreed. Thank you. Kay, go ahead.
I know there's a verse that says, "In the same way he left, he'll be coming back in the same way." So we're looking for him in the clouds. Is there a verse?
When did he leave? He left on the 40th day.
Right.
And
but he didn't say the same time. I know we're looking, he's, here he comes riding on the clouds. They write songs about it. But is there a verse? This is a yes, no, or I don't know question. Is there a verse that says he will return on the same day he was born?
Well, no, because if there was a verse that said that, then people would understand what the purpose of the Feast of Trumpets is all about.
Okay. So
the trumpets, no one knows the meaning of it. It's the Feast of Shouting. Shouting what? And then you go to was it Luke 1 to 3 or 3? And what are the angels doing when they announce?
Yeah, I've read the book. I know all those things.
They're shouting.
They were also shouting when he came in on a donkey, and they were also shouting when a new king was inaugurated. So there's not just one shouting, and so, oh my gosh, that's it. So my second question is, on the 8th day, Eric posted that a woman is considered clean one day on the 8th day. I don't know where that's, and 2, You don't have to take your son on the 8th day to the temple to get circumcised. I read, and don't know if this is true or not, I'm asking you, is it true that fathers circumcised their own sons?
Fathers what?
Circumcised their own sons.
I believe that's what it was supposed to, the way it was supposed to be done.
So it could be
and then-
either way, depending on maybe where you lived.
Yeah, and then there was also, this became a thing where only the, I want to say milieu, I'm not sure if that's the right word, the
Moil.
say again?
It's a moil. It's
Yes, there is a-
Mohel. Moil.
A special rabbi could only do the circumcision, and that just became a thing. But yeah, it used to be the father did it. Abraham
Okay,
did
so
himself,
so
right?
the people that believe that Jesus was born on Sukkot and that he went to the temple on the 8th day to get circumcised, really to be he went to the temple. And for the people that believe at Yom Teruah, it doesn't have she wasn't clean enough until the 4th day. She wasn't considered clean.
I'm
She was
sorry,
still.
Kay, you're breaking up. I mean,
Yeah,
start
let me
with
move that. Let me move towards the house. Oh, get it for me, Bobby. For the people that believe Jesus was born on Sukkot, then, and he was circumcised on the 8th day and went to the temple. And the people that believe Yom Teruah said he couldn't have gone to the temple on the 8th day because she was unclean. And the people that believe like Eric, she wasn't unclean on that 1/8 day, that could shoot a hole in him being born on the first day of Sukkot. Or it could support him being born on the first day of Sukkot, because there is a clue. And John, when you read him, there's so many clues about everything. I mean, he is a clue writer. His third day and his all that stuff he reads in the beginning, all those clues and the way he writes. On Yom Teruah, and I teach both of these and stood as a teacher declaring something after I've studied it thoroughly and could find some loopholes in, because the time periods of the priest and the priesthood, the 40 days in your book. Well, I had 5 babies that were 42 weeks. And so there's only a 2-week just time period where one thing could be, where a baby could be born. It's not like, oh, if you know your day of conception for sure, 40 weeks later, you're going to have that baby. So that would be my argument for that, just because I have 4 daughters and theirs weren't 40 days. They were early and late, and mine were all late.
Yeah,
So to
girls are
me,
notorious for that in the first place.
what?
Girls are notoriously late.
And so here's what I do, Joe. You know, I love you, and I know you're the smartest person on this earth. That's what Bobby and I think about you.
I
Okay,
love
we
you
don't know.
too,
No,
Kay.
seriously, we don't know what's wrong with you. We
Yeah.
don't know what God sprinkled on you and why you write all these books. You're such a, contractor kind of person that can't conjugate a verb, yet you're the most brilliant person we know, and you have the best personality. So you're cute. I love your hair, all that. I adore you. I have people in this group that I'm teaching that are confused who have asked you questions today. So what I do, and please love me anyway, I teach. I show your books. I also teach he was born on Tabernacle View, and tabernacle is a beautiful word to me. It's a clue to me. It could be. And then I teach Deuteronomy 29:29. The secret things belong to the Lord, but he did give us Torah. And maybe I'll be convinced one way or the other. But until then, I cherish what you write and say and study. Even if I find I don't know about that on some things like that, those divisions of the priest, me having 5 42-week babies. And then another thing maybe someone else has this thought, and I don't know where I got this, but I have heard that in the fall at Yom Teruah was the inauguration of a king. I cannot find a scripture. I've looked for it, but I just find it in, other people's writings. But he has to come back, and he has to make things right on Yom Kippur and had his bride during that time. So
But there's nothing in Yom Kippur about him coming.
Atoning for Israel, the sins of Israel.
That's atoning. It's not him coming.
No, not coming. If he's already here on Yom Teruah.
Well, hang on.
He's going to fight this bull.
If he's coming to do these things on Yom Teruah, that is before Sukkot.
Right. So
the bride's got to be made ready before Sukkot, not after Sukkot when he shows up.
Okay, listen to this theory. Okay. He comes on Yom Teruah. He kills all these kings and nations against Israel, all these dead people. Now he's able to go in the temple and atone for the sins of his beloved Israel, his bride. Then he can start Sukkot and spend that week in the wedding ketubah, and on the 8th day transfer us. Have you ever thought of that, or is that so ridiculous you're trying not to laugh at me?
It's hard not to laugh. Well, it's hard to laugh at you, Kate, because you praise me up so much. Like,
I'm in sales.
How can I ever get mad at you? No.
Can I get an amen from whoever's in sales?
So hang on, but stop and think though. What you've just said is illogical. Okay. Because you've taken the arrival of the Messiah and the atonement sacrifice, which is, the unlocking away of Satan, and the marriage, and you put that all in the same time period.
In the fall.
Well, yeah, but it's not. It's not all going to happen in the last year of the Feast of the Great Tribulation. You're talking about events that are going to take place over a millennium. So when does the wedding take place? After Satan is thrown into the lake of fire. When is Satan thrown into the lake of fire? At the end of the 7th millennium. When is Satan locked up? At the beginning of the 7th millennium, or at the end of the 6th, which is where we're at now. So when does he come to lock him up? When does that angel come and lock him up? At the end of the 6th. Who's the angel that's coming to do that? Jehovah. When does he come? Trumpets. So that right now we're looking at that part of the fall holy days as the major events that are about to take place in our lifetime. Sukkot.
Are you saying therefore that Yeshua is coming this year then?
I'm kind of am, but I'm kind of not. So yeah, it's I don't exactly understand it.
So this year at Yom Teruah?
I didn't say that. I'm saying the judgment has begun. October 7th has begun the judgment on our time now. The trumpet plagues are, I'm going to know for sure more when I hear this big earthquake or whatever it is, or when this mountain starts falling into to the people. And I'm expecting that next year. So we're close.
Okay, so you're basing him coming at you're basing the birth of Yeshua at Yom Teruah on two main things: the priest division and the shouting.
Well, there's more than that, but yeah.
And the new moon.
And the new moon.
You know what? The new moon, I get, we don't know the day or the hour, but we really don't know the day and the hour of Passover either. Because you've got the new.
We have 14 days before that to get ready for it. We have on the Feast of Trumpets, you don't know that until the very second the moon is seen.
Isn't that the same with Passover? Because you're looking for a new moon and barley.
You got 14 days to get ready. Trumpets, you only got You got to be ready now, maybe, or maybe it's tomorrow night. We just don't know.
However,
You know,
do you hear what I say? You still have a new moon at Passover, so you got to be looking for it.
yeah.
And you got to go to Israel or have somebody that goes to Israel to check the barley. So you got to be ready for Passover as well.
Well, if you were living in Israel, you wouldn't need anybody to go and check the barley because
And if you get Passover and barley wrong, then you're going to get Yom Teruah wrong. So you got to be ready for that too.
yeah.
To me, that's harder than Yom Teruah. At least you know it's coming up. You're just waiting on a sighted moon. But it just depends on the clouds. It's not that hard to get ready. You know it's coming. Even the Jews, my, secular Jewish brother-in-law, he's sure to keep Yom Teruah because he only has 10 days to get his name in the book of life.
But hold on. So, but Yom Teruah is not dependent on Passover because it says the first day of the 7th month.
Right, Summer. How do you know when the 7th month is? You got to get Passover right. Because according to Joe, our Passover is different from several other people, and theirs from several other people. So who's Yom Teruah? Then that sets the timing for Yom Teruah. You've got 3 or 4 different Yom Teruahs this year, depending on who your teacher is and what your views are.
Okay, but based on the book, if those people had showed up at Pentecost 2 or 3 or a month or 2 months later, they would have missed the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. They would have missed the tongues of fire. They would have missed the fact that people were speaking in other languages, but they heard it in their own tongue. So you have to be at the point, at the place, at the time when he says to be there. It's not about us. We don't set the appointment. That's why it behooves us to be paying attention to all these details and understanding the wheels within the wheels, and understanding so that you do end up being at the appointed time, at the appointed time. And yes, other people are doing other things. And if you want to learn from those other people, go to the other people. But the point
How many of those other groups were looking for the abomination? None of them.
Well, the point is,
let me finish my point.
Okay.
None of them were looking for it. Why? Because they didn't have the understanding of the holy days and the sabbatical and jubilee years.
And the barley.
Well, it's all of that. But I was there looking for that.
Exactly.
I was in the wrong place. I was out by 2 weeks, but I was there looking for it. And I was the only one looking. And actually, I was pretty stupid to actually be there looking for it.
No, you weren't. I want to make a point to Summer about what she asked was, we know it's the 7th month. What does Passover have to do with it? What Joe teaches is you've got to have the sighted moon and the first omer of barley. That sets the new year, Summer. And then that's the first month. That sets the first month. If you get that wrong, you missed Yom Teruah because you don't know when your 7th month is. If you follow somebody else and the barley doesn't matter, it's just whatever the Jews are doing, you're on the wrong Yom Teruah.
Right, but I was basing it off of the way that they're counting the calendar with the sighted moon group, I guess.
Right. So that's how you know when the 7th month is, when you go by the sighted moon, which really has nothing to do with what I first started talking about, is when Jesus was born. But I just wanted to make sure you understood that you got to find that barley. And that's what I learned from Joe and is sold on and teach our group.
Well, I love all of what everybody said. This has been very educating today.
Okay,
it always is.
We do got to get going here because time's slipping by. So there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to unlearn. And it's when you bring other teaching in or other things that you haven't unlearned yet in, that there's confusion sometimes. And I'm not saying that I got it 100% correct, but I think I might. Okay, so that sounds a little bit vain, but I got a lot of people here to double check me, and they sure do point out my spelling mistakes. So if I get some of these calendric mistakes, I'll have a bunch of people jumping down my throat, like Glenn and Sarkis and Sombra and others. And so yeah, it's a process of learning and growing. It's a process we all have to go through.
But what you said about bringing in other teachings, while it is confusing bringing in the other teachings, what ends up happening is we are able to work through the troubles of the other teachings and why it doesn't work. These congregations where they don't allow for any other teachings, they're never going to correct the mistakes of the path that they're on because they're not allowing for anybody to come in and have a course correction.
Amen.
We have one of the things that we do here is, and I instigate a bunch of them. I ask the other teachings questions. Now, I didn't do what Summer did today, excuse me, but I asked what, some of the obvious things that people are teaching about certain subjects, and I become the devil's advocate. In order for the debate to turn and argue both sides, so people hear it and new people hear it, and then they, oh, okay, I never knew that. Oh, they left out that scripture. And that's why we do it. So, we do things here. We have a Midrash. In order to have a Midrash, I'll take the other side. Or Eric's always on the other side. No, we go back and forth and we beat this up so people can learn. And that's the whole purpose. It's for people to learn. It's not for me to be right. Although I love it when Kay sucks up to me. I just love it. Okay.
There's something I want to point out too. In the year that Yeshua showed up and he was crucified on Passover that year. It's interesting that when he went in to ride on the donkey into Jerusalem, happened to be the same time that the Jewish people were looking for the lamb to be brought in by the high priest.
That's
and
right.
That happened to be coincidental. So Passover on that year lined up with what God had in store for Passover to be. So it's interesting that happened. So even though we may want to criticize the Jewish people for using the Hallel calendar and forecasting when it should
hang
be.
on. When Yeshua rode into Jerusalem that year, there was no Hallel calendar.
No, I know.
But, yeah. Years
no, I'm not saying that there was. What I'm saying is, if they weren't, in fact, they happened to be spot on when Yeshua was, and they're saying, Hosanna, Hosanna, save us now, and they were looking for a literal lamb to come into Jerusalem, and here comes Yeshua riding on the foal of an ass. So he's coming in on the same day that they're looking for the lamb to come in. What are the chances that would happen in that particular year? But once Yahweh has set up the timetable, you'll notice the Ruach showed up at the appropriate time, the appropriate day on that year, because God had, even though they may have been, I'm just saying, even though anyone may have been pretty far off, it almost seems like God is going to help us out with two witnesses in the end to get everything sequenced up to be doing the feast the correct days on the year that he's going to show up.
Amen.
That's what the two witnesses are to do, to restore all things. And I got to hurry up here, folks. We still haven't even started.
Joe, quick disclaimer, just for everybody. I don't want anybody to think that I challenge Joe's teaching. I've learned so much from him. So keep reading his books and keep showing up.
You don't need to apologize. You do challenge it and you do bring up good questions. And I don't mind that at all. So there's no apologies needed.
That's what we're supposed to do, Kay, and do it
right.
politely with love. And that's how it works.
Yeah, challenge him, Kay. You go for it.
Real
challenge
quick.
Oh, get in here quick.
Real quick. This is Lee. Real quick. This is Lee. Got a question for you guys to contemplate as well. I was looking at in my mind and been thinking about it for quite a while about the wheels within the wheels. What is the best definition of any clock? You take a look at a clock, there are wheels within the wheels. And so if you're looking at a timepiece and the heavens declare his times and wonders, you've got a rotational pattern that repeats continuously, and you can, in fact, set the seasons based on those rotations and such. So once again, if you were building a clock or a timepiece, and all of a sudden one of your gears is too small or too large, you are no longer keeping time as it was intended. You're now keeping your own time. Think about that.
So on that note, go and do the study that we did on those wheels. The wheels are, the word there is Gagal, where we get Golgotha from. And the wheels are the eyes, or covered in eyes, or all seeing eyes, and they have to do with the Moedim. Just like Bree or Lee said. Paul, get in here quick.
Just one thing, Joe, that we probably might have missed, that Yeshua's 7th month of birth, on the first day of that month, is the object in the stars. The woman has the sun come out between her legs and the moon is under her feet. And that is the witness of heaven. Without that witness, no one has any timing. We can do everything down on the planet, but if we don't have that and understand how that fits in, then we miss out totally. Now, I mentioned
that's Revelation 12. We're coming up to that in the book here in the chapters that are following.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, if we can look at that, maybe at the time when it's needed to look at that, and see whether it lines up in the stars for the 7th month, but see whether it happens in the 8th month and the 9th month the same. Because if it's not as clear, then we know the 7th month is clearer. It's also a distinction saying, yes, we are lining up with Jehovah because it's clear, whereas the 8th and 9th month, which people are doing as a down the track type thing, it's out for them. It's not going to fit.
Yeah.
This is the third witness. Remember, we've got the Passover as a witness, the barley, then we've got the Shavuot, and then we've got trumpets. These are three main witnesses we have no control over.
Yeah.
And it's God doing it.
When we do come up with this, if Sonberg can remind me when we do that chapter, I do have other pictures that we can throw up here, and just remind me to have them ready that week. Okay?
Which chapters are you
All
talking
right,
about?
thank you.
Chapters of?
The one with I got a couple black and white pictures in the book about the stars beneath her feet.
The constellations, okay.
Yeah. Steve, go ahead. And then after Steve, we're going to start the Torah portions.
I just want to know what the verses are that indicate Yeshua coming back at the start of the tribulation.
It's the 10 days of awe, right? So there is no specific verse. What you have to understand is you have to understand the holy days outside the verses. You have to understand what they mean, what they represent, and how they are done each year. And then you have to step back and you apply that to the whole plan of salvation inside a Jubilee cycle to end this 6th millennial day. So again, there's knowledge.
I'm just citing from Matthew 20.
There's knowledge and there's understanding that you get from reading and study. Wisdom is something that you have to ask Jehovah to give you, to put these things into perspective and to sit there. And what do you do on Shabbat? You meditate, you pray, you ask Jehovah to help you to understand this question or this subject or this, whatever it is you're talking about. And then you be quiet and let him answer you. Now that could be an idea pops in your brain, a verse pops in your brain, or some religious teacher that you tuned in on the radio happens to say the key thing that you go, that's the answer. But you got to ask them. So Yeshua coming back on the 10th day or the first of the 10 days of awe, that's my understanding from all my knowledge put together. Are we going to see him coming down in a cloud and landing on, no, we're not going to see that because that doesn't pertain to this first year. Are we going to see him beginning judgment on the world? Yes, that does. Are we going to see him? I don't know. I don't think so.
We'll see him in the results of an earthquake, Joe, that will give us the escape out through the Azal Valley in 2030.
Well, that's 2030, but right now,
yeah, I know.
You're not going to see
we don't know.
Right now. You're not, did you see him? Did you see him on October 7th? Did you see him when he took Israel's eyes away that day? Israel's got the smartest, keenest people watching every move the Palestinians make. And yet, at that moment, they all went stupid. Where was Jehovah then? He was there, but he was punishing them because of their sins. And they haven't repented for that yet. So, we're coming up to another critical time, and we're about to launch this war into Lebanon. We got Pakistan and we got the Taliban all wanting to send thousands and thousands of troops to go and kill the Jews. This is getting bigger and wider. Do you see Jehovah yet? Do you see him in this? You have to step back. So it's not an actual see him coming down in the clouds and like he went up. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be, you're going to see him in the events. You're going to see him. Did you see Jehovah when he parted the Red Sea? No, they didn't, but they saw the Red Sea part. That type of thing. Does that answer that, Steve?
Kind of. It's just like a gray area for me, though. Still,
it's a gray area for all of us. I don't have every specific answer. I have more I don't knows than I do I knows. So,
well, I know that it says in Matthew 24, 29 to 30, the day of the Lord is immediately after those days, which is the tribulation. That is the official time he returns, isn't it?
Well, that is the day, that the day is a year. So the actual year of Jehovah will be that final year. Yeah, that's the 10th year. That's represented in the Day of Atonement, which Psalm we just read today. That's a huge day. That's a huge event. And Leviticus 16, nobody studies it. And yet it's so crucial to our time right now.
Thank you.